morning sun shines on the gleaming hide of a muscular ranch horse. The aroma of bacon and coffee drifts from the wood cook stove at a cow camp. Silver spurs jingle as the men and women of the West get set for another day in the saddle. From the heart of Canada's finest ranching country, this is the Spirit of the West with rancher and horse trainer Hugh McLennan and his collection of music, poetry, and conversations with the folks who live and work with horses and cattle in the Spirit of the West.
I was thinking of that line about cowboy wisdom the other day. Remember? The one that says, "It's a lucky cowboy who in his lifetime has one good horse, dog, and wife." Well, I've been that lucky cowboy, but I'd add one more, maybe. A real nice pickup. And there lies the dilemma. Do I keep that old reliable truck, even though the warranty is long expired? Or do I take one of those big, shiny, brand new ones out for a test drive and mortgage the ranch to buy it? Well, Baxter Black has a look at that subject today.
4 big dealerships, each with 25 to 50 new pickups, but not one 4-speed manual transmission.
Well, he finally found one he liked, and the big question is, did he or did he not spring for it? We'll find out when Baxter comes along here. And I'll visit with Sarah Braul this week. She's the only Canadian in the 52 young folks who have been accepted into the American Quarter Horse Association Ranching Heritage Youth Development Program. And she'll talk about the colt she received and also what she wants to do with the rest of her life.
See how hard she works at it and her passion for it. So definitely made me want to do it, that's for sure.
At only 16, Sarah's a great example of why the future of agriculture looks bright. And we'll continue to study the cattle markets on the Rangeland News.
The proportion of heifers in feedlots is higher, but feedlot total inventory is up 7% from a year ago. The 2017 calf crop was up 2%.
In the Cowboy Poetry Spotlight, a guy I'm glad to say will finally be at this year's Kamloops Cowboy Festival.
And for our little contest, there should be a prize, of course. So if I win, I get the job. If I lose, you get my horse.
That's the great Chris Isaacs with another masterful spellbinder. On the Urban Saddles and Western Wear Horse Training File, a listener wants to know what I think about laying a horse down and how to go about doing that. Well, I'll tell you what I think. And we'll start things off with some fine Western swing from Jill Jones and the Lone Star Corral.
I'm going on horseback, my pony's by my side, saddled for our last ride. My donkeys are singing, my lariat's swinging, the stars are all aglow, I hear the cattle low. My trail boss is calling to me by and by, the full moon's lighting up the prairie sky. The world is ours as we're climbing the stars up to heaven. My pony's we'll soon be loping, riding the western lands with all them old cow hands. My cattle are trailing, coyotes wailing, the cactus bloom at night, the sages of delight. The trail boss is calling to me by and by, the full moon's lighting up the prairie sky. The world is ours as we're climbing the stars up to heaven. Saddle, plumb out of time to roam, winding my way back home. Shadows are longer, my longing is stronger. Twilight is coming soon under the prairie moon. My trail boss is calling to me by and by. The full moon's lighting up the prairie sky. The world is ours as we're climbing the stars up to heaven.
That song written by the late Nancy Thorwardson, and sadly we lost Nancy way before her time. Well, Sarah Braul is a 16-year-old Alberta gal, loves horses, has ridden with the Calgary Stampede show riders for a couple of years, and she is the only Canadian among 52 young folks accepted into the American Quarter Horse Association Ranching Heritage Youth Program, and she's on the line from her home at Irricana.
Well, Sarah, I just wanted to say congratulations on being accepted into the AQHA Ranching Heritage Youth Horse Development Program. First of all, can you just give me an idea how that program works and what it does?
Sure. So I applied in the summer, and I didn't even think I would get in, but there's 52 youth in North America, and I'm the only Canadian that was accepted. But in early September, my family and I went down to Rapid City, South Dakota, to the horse sale for the open box rafter ranch, and I was one of 6 youth that went to that sale to pick up a colt, and they had 3 fillies and 3 colts set aside for this program, and we just picked the colt we wanted.
And where does it go from there then? What do you hope to accomplish with the colt?
Yeah, so I've had him for 6 months now, and for the next year we record all of our progress and our horsemanship with our colt, and our income and expenses similar to a 4-H record book, and that'll all be judged at the end by AQHA professional horsemen, they're called, and it'll all get judged, and it'll go towards scholarships at the end.
And when does that happen, the judging?
I think in October.
Oh, yeah. Now, how did the process work where you got to pick this colt from the other 6?
Okay. Well, Jim and Joni Hunt, the breeders from Open Box Rafter Ranch, they actually founded this program, and they spoke with all of the youth about their background in horses and what they were interested in, and kind of where they would want to go with their colt or filly, and from there we kind of had an idea of the ones we had our eye on, and so we actually just rose our hand when they called out that colt, and if 2 or more youth wanted that particular one, we drew straws, and I had my hand up for a dun colt, but I drew a short straw, so I wound up with a Palomino colt, but he's worked out pretty good for me.
And we'll learn a lot more about that colt and a lot more about Sarah in a little while, and a song from a brand new CD that just arrived when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. When Sarah Braul looked over the selection of weanlings at the ranch in South Dakota, a buckskin colt really caught her eye, but someone else wanted that colt too. So they drew straws, and Sarah didn't get the buckskin. So she chose another one.
So he was your second choice then?
Yeah.
Yeah. What was it about the Palomino that kind of caught your eye?
Sure. Well, right away we could tell he was super friendly. Some of the other ones they were all friendly, but some of the other ones were a little more worried, I guess, at the sale than he was. And right away I knew he was like super friendly and smart, and had a good brain. So it's worked out pretty well.
And boy, that was a pretty long haul to get him home then.
Yeah, it was we were a little worried about that part of it, but it all worked out pretty good, and luckily we had all the paperwork sorted before we went down there, and Jim and Joni Hunt, they had it all set up at the sale for people that were bringing horses up to Canada, so it worked out really well.
Boy, that's good. Now, did you do it all in one day?
We did, yeah. We drove through the night.
That'd be a lot of hours from Rapid City to southern Alberta.
Yeah, I think it was 14 hours, and we ended up coming across the border at Lethbridge, I think about 9:30 at night.
Oh, my goodness. And did he settle in right away when you got him home? Did he seem pretty comfortable?
Yeah, he did. I guess it probably took him about a week and we gave him a break, a little time to settle in, but he's made good friends with my paint gelding, and he's right at home, that's for sure.
Now, what were some of the first things that you worked on once you got him there?
Well, he wasn't halter broke when I first got him, so that took a little bit of time. We focused on that, and picking up his feet, that was one of the first things too, and just getting him used to us being around him. And now he ties good, and I can round pen him good, and we've just been getting him used to like tarps and different kind of stuff that he might encounter in his life that would be scary to him.
Right, and he was friendly, you said. Did he show any real fear of anything that you had to introduce him to?
Yeah, so there's been a couple things that have been more of a challenge for us. Almost the teaching him to lead, and that was probably the easiest part. And he always comes to me, and I know some of the other kids haven't been quite as lucky in that. But sometimes when I'm introducing him to something new, he's quite hesitant, and it takes a while to show him that it's not going to hurt him. But once he knows that, it's pretty good.
Okay, Sarah, if you can hang on for a few minutes, I got another song here. This one just came in from the Hot Swing Band of Texas, and I can sure identify with the word pictures in Heading Back to the Barn.
Sweet smell of sagebrush and juniper trees, riding my pinto through clear mountain streams, frost meadows golden and aspens of green. To be a cowboy again, it's only a dream, 'cause I'm heading back to the barn. With roundups and rodeos I'm done. Yes, I'm heading back to the barn. My trail riding days are all done. I used to tame Mustangs and Broncs just for fun, mending fences and livestock in rain or in sun. The smell of a campfire and wildflowers in spring, the scent of leather and horses, these memories remain. But I'm headed back to the barn with roundups and rodeos I'm done. Yes, I'm headed back to the barn. My trail riding days are all done. My trail riding days are all done. My trail riding days are all done.
Yeah, I think you could do an old-time waltz to that one. Well, Sarah Braul is still on the line from her home in Irricana, Alberta. And Sarah, with this program for the colt you're working on, I understand that you can add points in the wild card category. Now, how does that work?
Wild card point is anything extra you're doing with your colt, or that some of the other kids may not be doing, or things you're doing to promote the program, things like that. So that's kind of why I reached out to you to be on the show. To promote this program that I'm in. And
okay, I get it. Yeah, right. And anything else you can do like that to sort of get the word out about the program would probably earn you some extra points then.
Yeah, and I think from what I've heard, there was one other girl, maybe from Saskatchewan, that's done it. But it'd be sure nice to get other Canadians into it, and even more Canadian breeders recognized as ranching heritage breeders.
And how did you find out about the ranching heritage program?
I believe it was on the AQHA website that I found out about it.
Oh, yeah.
In no means did I think I was going to be picked.
Wow. So then you just, was it like an online application?
I printed it off and faxed it in, I believe, but it was pretty lengthy. I had to talk about my experience with horses and my experience with the AQHA, I guess, and then do a little bit of an essay about like what I would do with this colt and why I would want to be picked.
Wow. Do you know how many young folks in total would have applied?
No, I'm not sure, actually.
But there were, I think you said 52 that were actually picked to receive a weanling. So.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And from the sounds of it, it's pretty competitive. So, no, I'm not sure how many would have applied. And actually, if you're not picked to receive a colt, you can buy one and still participate in the program. But I think there's only maybe 2 people that did that.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Yeah. Now, if you're successful and the scholarship comes your way, do you have any plans for how you'd like to use that?
Yeah, well, I really want to be a vet, a large animal vet. I'm not sure which way I want to go, horses or cattle just yet, but it would definitely go towards that. And if I could, I'd love to go to a school in the States. So that would definitely come in handy.
Right. Gee, a lot of my vet friends tell me the big money is in dogs and cats and parrots.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Yeah, but oh boy, you know, we need large animal vets so badly, and the ones that I know are just so dedicated. It's a special way of life, and it takes special people to do that.
And I'll tell you what, we'll talk about why you'd want to be a large animal vet in a little while, Sarah. And next we'll find out about that rancher who went shopping for a brand new pickup. Baxter Black has the story when the Spirit of the West continues right after this.
Howdy, friends. This is Baxter Black on Spirit of the West with Hugh McLennan with a little peek at pickup dreams. Ladies and gentlemen and followers of cowboy humor, in a moment of weakness, I, Baxter Black, have written another book. I appreciate it. Its title is Scrambled Wisdom. Almost isn't is it? Which almost makes sense. Well, our offer does make sense. Only $19.95 plus shipping. A solid gold guarantee. Call 800-654-2550. Online at BaxterBlack.com. I'm not sure what it is about pickups that makes men drool. Maybe it's because women drool over men in pickups. But sometimes a cowboy will overreach. Dave and Jan came by our house on the way to the city. They were going pickup shopping. I need one that can handle those steep, rocky canyon roads with switchbacks like a bad case of hiccups and nothing but washboard between the washouts. It's got to be able to pull a loaded 20-foot gooseneck up the face of Gibraltar without grabbing compound, explained Dave. I'm thinking a 3/4-ton four-wheel drive diesel with manual transmission. Well, that afternoon they shopped and shopped. 4 big dealerships, each with 25 to 50 new pickups, but not one 4-speed manual transmission. Everybody wants an automatic, said the dealer. Well, Dave stuck to his guns, but with each subsequent shiny macho machine he was shown, the sticker price began to weigh heavier on his mind. They had dinner in a restaurant and then stopped at one last car dealer. 28 trucks on the lot. 27 had an automatic transmission, but his dream truck flexed before him. Washing away all budget concerns, he sat in the front seat. A couple of times the dark cloud of doubt darkened his glittering vision, but Jan encouraged him. You can do it, she cooed. They drove it off the lot. Back home in bed, Dave dreamed of shackles on his ankles. He was carrying the truck on his shoulders as the dealer heaped optional accessories in the bed. As he wound his way through the next day's chores, he had visions of his children begging on the street, his mother coming out of the nursing home, and his wife selling Tupperware, all to help make the payments. It's only $15 a day for 6 years, the dealer had said. Just skip breakfast. Well, Dave tossed and turned that night, unable to sleep. Desperation frayed his mind. The next morning, the dealer called with a problem. Seems Dave's trade-in had a bent frame. Can you bring the new one back?" they asked. Dave gulped, and much to their surprise said, "Gas mine up. I'll be there by noon." And who says a cowboy can't spot a good business opportunity when it hits him in the face? This is Baxter Black on Spirit of the West with Hugh McLennan. Thanks for listening.
How about a weekend pass to the 22nd Annual Kamloops Cowboy Festival, March 15th to 18th, 2018. A terrific list of entertainers, including Gary Prescott.
I once rode with the best of the cowboys back in the days of my youth.
Brian Salmon.
So who would pack the lantern? There are some buckaroos that would pack it tall and proud just like we need to do.
Tom Cole.
Out on the plains, an old cowboy sings a song to his herd.
The BC Cowboy Hall of Fame inductions, dinner shows, evening concerts, a wonderful art and gear show, the Art of the West show and sale, workshops, and everything from guitar picking to saddle making. The best place to get all the details is bcchs.com, and for tickets, call 1-888-763-2221. I was talking to the rodeo legend Ivan Daines last week, and he's working on the next Ivan Daines Country Music Picnic and Canadian Horse Training Championships for the second weekend in August, and we definitely are planning to be there again. Ivan's a prolific songwriter, and his CD, Songs of My Life, is really special. I highly recommend it. The great Bobby Bear was at the picnic last year. Wow, what a great show he did. Now, how about if Bobby Bear introduces this Ivan Daines song?
Hi, everybody. This is Bobby Bear, the old Hall of Famer here in Nashville, Tennessee. And I'm talking today about my friend, another Hall of Famer, the great Ivan Daines. He has a new album out called Songs of My Life. And I just listened to it, and I love the Willie Nelson song. And I also love, yes, I am Canadian, but I got to tell you, Ivan, the whole world knows you're Canadian. And I still haven't figured out why Canadians are such great songwriters.
I'd like to take this time to thank the keepers of the West. As far as you can go south to the north, the land that tests the gauchos, charros, buckaroos, cowboys, horsemen, and women all. The work you do is invaluable, some say your pay is small. Whoever rode a real good horse in the mountains or the plains, keepers of the West don't think of dollar bills and change. Life to them's more precious, taking care of living things. Cattle, horses, sheep, dogs, and friends where cell phones just don't ring. Thanks to the folks who keep alive to our eyes and our own ears. Cowboy poets and singers, poems and songs we hold so dear. To each and every one of them in verse and in song. Without them, the telling of the West would soon be gone. Whoever rode a real good horse in the mountains or the plains, keepers of the West don't think in dollar bills and change. Life to them's more precious, taking care of living things. Horses, cattle, sheep, dogs, and friends where the cell phones just don't ring. So when you see a woman or a man working in the Western way, give a wave or stop and say, hope you're having a good day. When we sit down at night and thank the Lord for the food we eat, thank also the keepers of the West, this life that's hard to beat. Whoever rode a real good horse in the mountains or the plains, keepers of the West don't think of dollar bills and change. Life's to them much more precious, taking care of living things. Cattle, horses, sheep, dogs, and friends where the cell phones just don't ring. Cattle, horses, sheep, dogs, and friends where the wind has its own ring.
Now the news of the rangeland, a roundup of news and coming events from around the West.
At the top of page 1, if the North American beef cow herd is still in expansion phase, there will be fewer heifers going to market, and some recent statistics indicate that might still be the case. Here's Gary Crawford.
Will 2018 be the fifth year in a row of expansion in the beef cattle herd and in beef production, or will it not? USDA livestock analyst Chale Shagam told us returns to cattle producers now and expected returns are
not conducive to large expansion, but at the moment it's not conducive to a significant contraction. I think to some extent that did show up in the numbers, the fact that we are looking at cow numbers which were already 2% above a year ago.
On the other hand, as to heifers being held back for breeding,
producers indicated that they were holding back about 6.1 million head of heifers for beef cow replacement, which would be 4% below a year ago.
And the proportion of heifers in feedlots is higher, but feedlot total inventory is up 7% from a year ago. The 2017 calf crop was up 2%. So Shagam says he thinks
there's still going to be some expansion in beef production during 2018.
Latest forecast about a 6% increase. Gary Crawford for the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Washington.
Congratulations to one of the finest pickup men in the world of rodeo. Gary Rempel was inducted into the Montana Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame a little while ago, along with rodeo greats Marvin Joyce, Bud Pauley, and Rooster Reynolds. Now, a lot of producers will be looking for grass to run yearlings or cows and calves on this coming season. How much is a reasonable amount to pay for grazing? Well, these numbers have just been announced. The federal grazing fee for 2018 in the U.S. will be $1.41 animal unit month for public lands administered by the BLM and $1.41 per head for lands managed by the USDA Forest Service. The 2017 public land grazing fee was $1.87. And that, of course, is in U.S. dollars. The newly calculated grazing fee was determined by a congressional formula, and it takes effect March the 1st, 2018. The formula used for calculating the grazing fee was established by Congress in the 1978 Public Rangelands Improvement Act and has remained in use under a 1986 presidential executive order. Under that order, the grazing fee cannot fall below $1.35 per AUM, and any increase or decrease can't exceed 25% of the previous year's level. Well, it sounds like the fuel truck is coming up the road, and the tanks are pretty low. We need the fuel, but oh man, paying the bill can be sticker shock. Diesel costs in Western Canada are roughly 8 to 10 cents higher on average than at any time in 2017, and an industry expert warns that that gap could grow even more with a potential surge of U.S. construction. According to Dan McTeague of GasBuddy.com, he says, I think we're already seeing more evidence of a robust consumption-driven U.S. as more disposable income is being sprinkled around. And what that means is a rise expected despite Canada's increasing diesel supply last fall with the opening of the Northwest Redwater refining facility at Sturgeon Lake, Alberta. That $9.3 billion refinery is designed to upgrade 50,000 barrels of bitumen per day into 40,250 barrels of ultra-low sulfur diesel. And he says there are additional factors supporting the diesel market, noting this winter's colder temperatures, strength in the mining sector, as well as growing economies in Europe and Asia. The federal New Democrats in Canada have picked a rookie MP and a small farm owner from southern Vancouver Island's Cowichan Valley as their new lead critic for agriculture. NDP leader Jagmeet Singh named Alistair McGregor as critic for agriculture and agri-food, a role in which he'll serve as second vice chair of the Common Standing Committee on Agriculture. And he replaces Quebec MP Ruth Ellen Brousseau, who Singh promoted Thursday to become the party's House Leader in the Commons. And in that post, she replaces BC Member of Parliament Peter Julian, who Singh named as the NDP finance critic. Okay, enough about politics. Next regular sale at the Kamloops yards of the BC Livestock Co-op is March the 6th, and a couple of purebred breeders will have some good bulls there too. March 15th, the regular sale in Williams Lake, and March 16th, regular sale in Vanderhoof. Get all the information at bclivestock.bc.ca. And meanwhile, at the Innisfail Auction Market, regular cattle sales every Wednesday, 2 horse sales a month, and lots of special bull sales and breeding stock sales coming up. You'll find them all at InnisfailAuctionMarket.com. And that takes us down to the final item. I thought this is kind of different. It's a list of some of the things that most boys raised on farms and ranches grow up knowing. Never shake a man's hand sitting down. There are plenty of ways to enter a pool. The stairs ain't one. In a negotiation, never make the first offer. And act like you've been there before, especially in the end zone. Request the late checkout. And when entrusted with a secret, keep it. Hold your heroes to a higher standard. Return a borrowed car or pickup with a full tank of gas. Play with passion or don't play at all. When shaking hands, grip firmly and look him in the eye. Don't let a wishbone grow where a backbone should be. And I sure like this one. If you need music on the beach, you're missing the point. And that's the Rangeland News. Coming up on the Urban Saddles and Western Wear Horse Training File, a listener wants to know how to go about laying his horse down and if that can change the horse's attitude. And that's what we'll look at when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. Coming right up on the Urban Saddles and Western Wear Horse Training File, I'll look at the process I use to teach a horse to lay down, and I'll comment on whether or not it can change his attitude. And there's more from my guest, Sarah Braul. But first, the 17th annual Spirit of the West Cruise will be something unforgettable. My wife Billy and I will be hosting a big group of ranchers, farmers, horse and cattle folks, and Spirit of the West listeners for a trip I know many of you have had on your bucket list for a long time. September 16th, 2018, we will sail out of Quebec City and cruise Canada's maritime provinces in all the glory of the fall colors, including stops in Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island, Sydney and Halifax, Nova Scotia, St. John, New Brunswick and the Bay of Fundy, Bar Harbor, Maine, Boston, Portland, Maine, and Cape Liberty, New Jersey, with an optional stay in New York City. Now, just for the Spirit of the West group, we have a tour of a cattle operation in Nova Scotia. We'll have all our great Western music concerts and sing-alongs, and we'll be swapping lots of ranching stories. And we'll have a lot of special activities just for our group. You'll find more details on the cruise section of our website at hugh-mclennan.com and on our cruise Facebook page, and you can always call the toll-free number 1-800-530-0131. Oh, are we going to have an awesome cruising cowboy band there this year, and our spots are just about full, so if you'd like to be a part of this special cruise, I would suggest you hurry and call 530, that's 1-800-530-0131. I almost gave you the number for Canadian Cowboy Country Magazine, but I'll give you that at the end of the show.
Now it's time for the Horse Training File, brought to you by Irvine Tack and Western Wear, Canada's largest Western store.
Urban Tack and Western Wear is Canada's largest Western retailer with over 60,000 square feet of everything Western. This Western wonderland has an endless variety of tack, boots, jeans, and outerwear with new items arriving daily. With over 1,000 saddles to choose from, you're bound to say Urban's is totally a unique place to shop. The kids will love the styles. You love the quality. Urban Tack and Western Wear off exit 305 on Highway 2 by Crossfield, open 7 days a week, online at urbans.ca. I had a listener call the other day, and he said he was working with a somewhat troubled horse, and he'd heard that laying a horse down can work miracles in changing a horse's outlook, so he tried doing that, but the horse got really scared, defensive, and he was never able to get the horse on the ground. He wanted to know if laying a horse down is useful and how to go about it. Well, I've heard the same thing, and I have used it a few times, but I'm not convinced that it's a miracle cure for a troubled horse. Now, this guy also wanted to know how I go about it, and here's what I've done. And I know it won't work without a lot of preparation. The horse, first of all, must yield softly to every kind of pressure from the halter, and then I'll teach him to lead by each front foot, obviously with a long cotton lead rope at least 12 feet long. And the next step is to have a halter with a 12-foot lead and a soft 22-foot line that I'll loop around his right front leg and bring it up over his back on the right side just behind the withers. And then I'll stand on his left and bring the shank over the right side of his neck. That way, you see, I can tip his head to the right. And then I'll work on having him lift his left leg in response to gentle pressure from that cotton line on his left foot. And that's all I'll ask for the first session. And once he's comfortable with lifting that foot, I'll hold his foot up until he looks for a little bit of relief. And here's where the timing and the touch is really important. I'll try and help him understand that the relief comes when he touches his left knee to the ground in a bow. And that's enough for that session. Now, building on it, I'll work with my own body position in a downward direction when his knee is on the ground. And with a little more gentle pressure, watch for him to lower himself gradually. And here again, if you time that gentle pressure properly, he will sink right down. Now, when he does, you make sure you are out of the way. He probably won't lay flat on his side the first time, but he might. Now, whether he does or not, reward him with gentle rubs and encouraging words, and don't keep him down for too long. Now, I have seen some horses make a huge change after being laid down, and I've seen lots of others where it didn't help at all. It's something I don't recommend you try unless you're pretty experienced with a lot of different kind of horses. And for Urban Saddles and Western Wear, Canada's largest Western store, that's the Horse Training File. Something else we like to do for our horses is give them that daily feeding of Hoffman's Horse Ration. Lucky is on the senior mix right now, and you can find out more at hoffmanshorseration.com. Now, the chances are, if you love stories about the West, you have read a few books by Louis L'Amour. He was born in 1908 and rode across the Great Divide in 1988, and I love this quote from him. He said, "One day I was speeding along at the typewriter, and my daughter, who was a child at the time, asked me, 'Daddy, why are you writing so fast?' And I replied, 'Because I want to see how the story turns out.'"
There's a warm fire burning in the wood stove. The gas lamp whispers a song. Wind howls a tune round the old cabin door. Outside the day is nearly gone. When the night shadows fall, a western story I'll read about the cowboys in the wild days of yore. I'll be saddled up in my easy chair, riding with Louis L'Amour. We'll ride through the painted desert in that hot Arizona sun. Camp out in the high lonesome in Utah's wide empty land. Stop for a night in New Mexico, get some grub down in old Santa Fe. Take a long ride to Abilene, Texas, down the Kiowa Trail on the way. Climb the Black Hills of South Dakota, where we've never rode before. Cross the Snake River down in old Idaho near the of the time long ago about the West and the wild days of yore. I'll be saddled up in my easy chair, riding with Louis L'Amour, warm by the fire in an easy chair, just me and Louis L'Amour, just me and Louis L'Amour.
That's one of my favorite singers of songs of the West, Fred Doberstein, and he's a perennial favorite at the Ivan Danes Country Music Picnic. Now let's get back to Sarah Braul. And Sarah, you said that if your colt comes along the way you hope, and that scholarship comes your way, you would work to becoming a large animal vet. Now, just why would you pursue that?
Work alongside farmers and producers, and I've just the past couple of years gotten into the cattle a bit and doing the cow-calf green certificate program. So yeah, I've kind of fallen in love with that, and I just love working with the people and the owners, and I see my vet, Brittany Wise is her name, and see how hard she works at it and her passion for it. So definitely made me want to do it, that's for sure.
Boy, that's great. Just give me a little more about your background, about where you live now, and kind of where you grew up.
Okay. Well, I actually grew up in Ontario, and I lived there, I guess, till I was 12 in the Niagara region. And 5 years ago, my family and I moved here to Irricana, Alberta. And I've been involved with horses and 4-H ever since. And when we got here, I started riding a paint gelding that I've shown ever since. And we were in the Calgary Stampede Show Riders for 2 years. So.
How old's your gelding now?
He's 9.
Man. And how does he get along with Can-Am's Playboy Drift?
Oh, they're best buds.
Is that right?
Yeah.
That's neat. Wow. And the name Can-Am's Playboy Drift, that's kind of neat. Does the Can-Am have some connection with the Canada-U.S. border or anything like that?
Yeah, so that's kind of I wanted his name to kind of be special to his situation, but also tell about his breeding. So the Can-Am part is kind of telling about his almost like dual citizenship, that he was born in the States, but now he's a Canadian, and maybe one day he'll get back there, but just kind of tells his story.
And through the program, then, he's yours. You get to keep him?
Yeah.
Wow. And he has, you were telling me earlier, some cutting horse bloodlines. Do you have some idea what direction you'd like to go with him in his future?
Yeah, so cutting is something that's I'm unfamiliar with myself, but it would be an interesting road. If that's where we go, then we'll both learn about it, and that would be fun. But I've also been getting into roping a little bit, so maybe in the future he'll be a prospect for that.
Well, Sarah, I really appreciate you telling us all about the program, and like to wish you the very best, and hope that scholarship comes your way.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me on the show.
You're welcome.
And we are open to visit with Sarah at the Red Deer main event in March. Coming up is our classic Song of the West, and then a spellbinding piece of cowboy poetry from one of the masters, Chris Isaacs, when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. For this week's classic Song of the West, I found one that I don't think is very widely known. It was recorded by the Carter family and was written by Mother Mabel Carter. And from what I can find out, she wrote it sometime in the 1930s and they recorded it in 1940. Apparently, the other family members encouraged her to write a cowboy song, and this was the result. Now, as you probably know, the Carter family resides on the bluegrass side of Western for sure. And the version of the song I've got today is from a terrific album that blends the best of bluegrass with pure Western music. The album is Appalachia to Abilene with Don Edwards and Norman Blake. Now, Don says before Bill Monroe and Gene Autry, the influence of Western and bluegrass came from the same tree. So here's Don and Norman with Mother Maybelle Carter's Buddies in the Saddle.
One stormy day, me and my buddy started on a roundup ride. The wind and dust blew hard around us. My buddy strayed far from my side. We were buddies in the saddle. We were buddies in our home. We were buddies herding cattle. We were buddies everywhere we roamed. I'll never forget the day I found him. He was so weak he could not speak. I'll never forget the smile he gave me. Then the poor boy fell asleep. I took him up in my saddle and carried him home across the plain. My mother nursed him every moment and tried to make him well again. We were buddies in the saddle. We were buddies in our home. We were buddies herding cattle. We were buddies everywhere we roamed. I'll never have a pal so near me. He took the blame for everything. I'd die for him just any moment, and for me he'd do the same. Now my buddy's gone and left me. It's so hard to struggle on, so hard to believe that he has left me. I can't realize that he is gone. We were buddies in the saddle. We were buddies in our home. We were buddies herding cattle. We were buddies everywhere we roamed.
Chris Isaacs is an award-winning cowboy poet, a favorite at gatherings all over the West, and the real deal when it comes to being a good cowboy. And I'm so glad to see he will be at the Kamloops Cowboy Festival this year. Here's Chris and the proposition.
Well, he rode up to our spring camp on a tall, blood-colored bay. We were pushed up to the campfire. The branding finished for the day. He took an offered cup of coffee, and he asked which one of us was boss. Clark Hunt looked up from his tally book and said, "That'd be me, old hoss." Well, the stranger shook Clark's rope-burned hand and, with a steady gaze, said, "I was hoping you could use me at your brand in a few days." Clark looked the stranger up and down and then said as he dipped up some snooze, "I don't guess that I need you, friend. I got all the good hands I can use." Well, the stranger, he broke a little smile and, with a twinkle in his eye, said, "You're passing up a right top hand. You ought to give me just a try. You'll find hiring me's a bargain, sir. There's damn little I can't do. In fact, I guarantee beyond a doubt I'll be the top hand on this crew." Well, that speech made old Clark bristle, 'cause he was right proud of this mob. He said, "That talk is mighty bold for a man that's looking for a job." Well, the stranger, he spit into the fire and then squatted down in a leisure position. He tipped his hat back on his head and made this astounding proposition. Now, Mr. Hunt, I'm a right top hand, so I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll outride, outrope, or whip in a fight any 3 men on your crew. And for our little contest, there should be a prize, of course. So if I win, I get the job. If I lose, you get my horse. Well, old Clark was plumb astonished at the stranger's talk so bold, but as a betting man himself, he knew 'twas time to call or fold. He said, "You've got a bet, sir, and you'll live to rue this day, when you're riding Shank's mare down the road and I'm setting on your bay." So Clark Hunt picked his men with care, and each knew his job well. For little Jim Haines, old Clark was sure could ride any bronc this side of hell. And Curly Bob was as handy with a rope as anyone he'd ever found. But his ace in the hole was T-Bone Jones, who'd whipped ever tough for miles around. So Clark picked out 2 outlaw broncs, and both boys screwed down their cacks. And though little Jim caused the hair to fly, the stranger's ride made Jim look like a hack. Then Curly Bob roped a big brindle steer, and he tripped him with his twine. But the stranger tripped and tied his down in roughly half the time. Clark said, "Okay, T-Bone, get warmed up, 'cause with this feller I'm through messin'. Show no mercy on him, son. You teach this boy a lesson." Well, T-Bone met Clark's level gaze, and he said, "Boss, I've watched him well, to see just what mistakes he makes, 'cause when there's a weakness, I can tell. You see, I don't want to make the mistakes we seen made by Jim and Bob. And boss, I've come up with a damn good plan. Let's give this guy the job."
Well, I want to say thanks again for taking the time to ride along with us today, and invite you back next week at the same time. And thanks again to Mark and Kathy McMillan, our great Spirit of the West support crew, busy now putting the final touches on the upcoming Kamloops Cowboy Festival. And remember, you can subscribe to Canadian Cowboy Country Magazine at cowboycountrymagazine.com, or give them a call at 1-800-943-7336. Till next week, I'm Hugh McLennan. Hope to see you down the trail somewhere real soon.